Does dinosaur hunting sound cool to you? Well, it does for this guy. In the events of Turok, Son of Stone, a Native American warrior named Turok finds himself in a prehistoric dinosaur world, with a sadistic enemy plotting his revenge. We will be going over the movie and the dinosaurs featured in it, followed by a detailed analysis. I'm Soar Loser. Dinosaurs make me want to take off in excitement, and I'm gonna convince you to Dinosaur. Yeah, I know that was bad. If you'd like to skip straight into the analysis, then please click here. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy. Our film opens to laughter and what looks like Native Americans running through the woods. These two guys are chasing this woman, and she trips and her hair clip falls into the river. And we find out right away that this one is motherfucking Turok. This one is Nashoba, and this one is Katori. And she says that she'll kiss whoever brings it back to her. They both jump in to retrieve the item when it is picked up by this evil-looking guy who I'm gonna call Red Stripe and his boys. Katori comes around, and they all get real rapey looking real quick. Turok demands the hair clip back, to which Red Stripe says come and take it. Turok takes no disrespect and demands it back again. Red Stripe decides to trade the clip for his tomahawk, but Turok catches it like a pimp. My same reaction. This causes Red Stripe to lose his Chad aura and tell his homies to kill Turok and Nashoba. The natives attack, but are quickly dispatched by our boy. They are, how you say... This leaves Red Stripe left, and Turok decides to return the tomahawk to sender. Nashoba appears to try and calm our MC down, but he is locked in and attacks his friend. We then cut to their village and see Turok's brother in great pain, while the elders talk about the ramifications of Turok's actions. We see the village shaman come out to tell the elders that our boy here has a spirit of violence and death. Hell yeah, he does. This means that he is to be cast out so that he doesn't drag the whole village down. We then see the title screen play. And this just makes me want to do a review on the 2008 Turok game. I loved it as a kid. Would anyone want that? I don't know. Holler in the comments if you do. We then cut to 16 years later and see a young man running through the woods at night. He seems scared, jumping at everything, and after wandering around for a while, he eventually finds Turok sitting beside a fire. Chad aura still intact. Turok calls out and we find out that this is Andor, son of his brother Nashoba, who survived and is now chief. He sent his son to retrieve Turok from his banishment because they have an enemy army about to wipe them out. Turok tells Andor that it's not his fight. So he returns to the village empty-handed, and we see the next morning the warriors advancing through the forest. They meet their enemy and the rival chief talks about avenging their fallen brothers from 16 years ago. Seems like a long time to respond, to be honest. Guess they were playing the long game because Nashoba takes out one with his bow, and then they just whip out guns and start blasting. Team Nashoba is quickly overwhelmed, and Andor comes face to face with the enemy chief, and is about to be killed when Nashoba sacrifices himself to save his son. So Andor runs to the only place he can. But when he gets to Turok, he passes out. So Turok grabs his weapons and carries Andor's ass right back to the battlefield. Lamau. We then see the decimated Nashoba forces, and Nashoba himself. We see this weighs heavily on Turok, when suddenly Nashoba is not dead. Turok asks who did this to him, and we find out the enemy chief's name is Chichok, and Nashoba asks Turok to stop him from killing the women and children of the village. Turok swears that he will and sets off to stop Chichok, but it seems that he's a bit too late as almost everyone is dead. The enemies set fire to the teepees, and Katori gets captured, but Turok shows up to glare menacingly, and the chief spots his tomahawk, and we find out that it was his father's from 16 years ago. The bad guys attack, but they're no match for motherfucking Turok, and I guess Andor too, whatever. Chief Chichok runs off, but Turok spots a spare whip and chases after him. He ends up in this crevice place, and the horse gets spooked, allowing Turok, and Andor, to catch up. But then we hear a creature call out, and Turok's horse's head is promptly removed by what I think is a terror bird. I mean, it's got arms, and seeing a terror bird with arms makes my gallbladder hurt. But terror bird, or Oryx racos longissimus, was a genus of giant flightless terror bird that inhabited South America during the Miocene epoch. We will be talking more about them later. And we find out that Turok is also disappointed in the arms thing and waits exactly 0 seconds before attacking it. The bird almost gets the better of him, but Andor distracts it long enough for them to follow Chief Chichok. The pair travel through a cave and exit to see dinosaurs. Dinosaurs everywhere. JK. We just get a close look at Ankylosaurus, which were a genus of armored dinosaur. And last episode, people wanted to make fun of my pronunciation, so this time I'm gonna make sure I do it right.
Ankylosaurus.
It has been said that Anky has become the archetypal member of its group, and the best known ankylosaur in popular culture. Maybe that life-size reconstruction of it in the 1964 World's Fair in New York City had something to do with it. I don't know, but we'll be talking more about them later. Andor asks where they are, but Turok is on a mission to kill a man, and the two start to make their way through this herd when the dinosaurs become spooked. Turok and Andor make it to high ground, and we get to see what they are running from. A Carnotaurus, which is a genus of theropod dinosaur that lived in South America during the late Cretaceous period. With only one species named, they are known to be lightly built predators. But man, this one is huge. Too huge, in fact, like your mom. Carnos are thought to be about 10 feet tall, and this one is like 30. The coloring of it seems like a bit off, but I mean fine, we're all good. But Chief Chichok and Katori are not good because it starts chasing them, and Chichok leaves the woman behind.
Beast.
She almost gets eaten, but Turok and Andor are there to respect women, and the three run into a tree to use it to cross the nearby river. They think they are safe, but the Carno starts to try and crip walk its way over, but the tree snaps under its weight and it disappears into the water. Psych! That actually scared me in real life, by the way. So our three MCs run deep into the jungle with the Carno hot on their tail, and they end up at yet another river and haul ass up this tree, with Turok showing off his Olympic gymnastics that netted him a silver in the 2016 games. Chief Chichok, and I'm getting tired of saying that, he's going to be Chuckle Nuts from now on, proceeds to try and third party like a scumbag, and the Carno ends up pushing everyone into the river. As if that's not enough, our three protagonists ride the tree through this river, and along the way we see a Podosaurus and Arsinoitherium hanging out, some Dimetrodons, yes, hello, some Pteranodons, hey, what's up, two Archaeolemurs, chillin', make that one, an Archaeopteryx, a Meganera, yo, and some Troodontids eat this Megalosaurus. How delightful. They end up in a lake where something takes notice of them. Surprise! It's a plesiosaur. Plesiosaurus dolichoderus were a genus of large marine reptile that lived during the early Jurassic period. And I already gotta say, it is way too big. And is its head sticking out of water? Where is my extremely loud incorrect buzzer at? Oh, here it is. We will talk more about them later because Turok starts blasting this guy. I mean, he takes a hit in the process, but manages to climb atop the thing and start hacking away at it. But all that blood in the water attracts this feller, Tylosaurus prorigger, who promptly eats our plesiosaurus. And Tylosaurus were a genus of an extinct group of predatory marine lizards that lived during the late Cretaceous period. They are often credited as the deadliest hunters of the sea during their time, and the animators did a good job of showing that. Look, they even got the tail. No complaints on design from me, but our characters may disagree, as the Tylosaurus quickly takes notice of them and tries to eat them, even while on land, which reminds me of this scene from King Kong. Review coming soon, I know you want it. Our gang is then quickly approached by Native Americans riding terror birds. Awesome. We then cut to Chuckle Nuts here wandering around, and he hears some noises and decides to check it out, and finds a child. I'm sorry, make that a British child. He quickly finds himself surrounded by, I want to say some fucked up version of Neanderthal, but I'll still be calling them British. We then see their leader come out and try to kill Chuckle Nuts, but he grabs the firearm and puts a round into him. This doesn't stop the big boy, and Chichok ends up shooting his loading rod into his head. This causes the other British to elect him as their new king, and we cut back to our three MCs being brought before the leader of this group, and her name is Sapinta, and is told by this guy, Koba, that they killed a longneck. Everyone seems surprised by this, and Sapinta asks our group how they even got there. They explain that they are from the land above, but nobody believes them. In order to gain their trust, Turok is given the task of gathering food for the cliff people, and is shown the way to a pteranodon nest. On his way up, he bleeds everywhere, which is not the recommended strat, as it attracts nearby wildlife. Turok makes it to the top and grabs the egg, which kind of reminds me of the egg gathering quest in Monster Hunter, when these pteranodons show up to defend their nest, and these are Pteranodon longiceps, which were a genus of pterosaur that included some of the largest known flying reptiles. And they're also one of the most popular pterosaurs, appearing in Jurassic Park 3, which I have a soft spot for. We will be talking more about them in the analysis though, because Turok has to avoid getting eaten, so he goes absolutely monkey mode, literally beating them and then jumping onto one. Man, he is just the definition of alpha. He ends up wrestling with it until it crash lands back at the Cliff People's village, and he quickly gives it a neck massage and shows off his egg to everyone. They act accordingly. Like, yeah, I'd be hype as fuck too, did you see that shit? But our hero is feeling his wounds and collapses to the ground. We cut to Chuckle Nuts trying to politely explain to his underlings that he wants to find Turok, and they end up pointing him in the right direction. We cut back to Andor and Katori being inducted into the Cliff People. Andor mentions they use the same symbol as their tribe did and wonder if they are descendants. There's no time to wonder about that anymore because it's time to party. Our boy here starts to chat up this lady whose name is Inawa, and he is definitely going to score tonight. The raw sexual energy in the air wakes up Turok, who goes outside to act mysterious. He is then called on this behavior by this masked man, who makes Turok question his purpose in life. He is then quickly pulled into the party and sees that the masked man has disappeared. And the next day we see some shots of our MCs learning the way of life in this land. And a time finally comes when they are trusted enough to be given their items back. And Turok decides that he wants to go, even though Sapinta totally wants a piece of that Turok. I mean, who doesn't? We then see Chucklenuts taking out the village sentries in order to stage his attack. And I do gotta say, some of the eye expressions the animators did in this movie are way too good at expressing pain. Got me geeked out. He signals to his British pals to attack, and they do just that. It's pretty chaotic and lots of cliff people end up getting killed, but they manage to push the opposing forces back to the bridge. And Koba actually almost kills Chucklenuts, but has to stop the tide of the British then and there. Turok knows they have to cut the bridge in order to save the village, but Sapinta can't do it. Turok steps up and Koba gives him the nod, and the ropes are cut. Koba dies, but the British are stopped. Later that night, the cliff people praise Turok and the gang for their efforts and decide they need to relocate. The next day, Turok decides it's his time to kill Chucklenuts and return home, but Katori and Andor want to stay. He is given the location of the cliff people's destination in case he wants to return, and our boy sets off. He travels the land and comes across the Carnotaurus from earlier, who is feeding her babies. He ends up following it to the home of the British and is surprise attacked. When he wakes up, we see Cheechak, who starts to gloat about capturing him. He says some cringe shit about revenge and starts to torture Turok for the cliff people's new location. In a delirium, Turok starts to see some flashbacks and meets the masked man, who tells him that the Carno is an animal that was born only to kill, just like him. We also find out that the masked man is Turok's brother. When our MC wakes up, we see that Andor was captured trying to rescue him, and he is forced to give up the location, and Chucklenuts sets off to finish what he started. The two are left tied up for last, so they muster up whatever Sigma energy they have left and break out. Yes, very Sigma. Once outside, Turok attracts the Carno with his blood. Why? To ride it, of course. The fuck you think this is? He heads off to kill Chucklenuts once and for all, and we cut to the cliff people being attacked by the British yet again. It turns into a fight for survival with both sides taking losses. Sapinta and Katori have a moment defending themselves together before it's cut short by Chucklenuts, who captures Katori. But the air fills with the Alpha Chad energy, and Turok appears, riding the Carno, and it's a massacre. I haven't seen the British get this messed up since. We then get this cool-ass shot, and Katori calls our boy a beast, and Sapinta agrees. But then she gets shot in the head. Rip Sapinta, never even got into Turok's pants. Chief Chucklenuts gloats about that and says that it's time for our boy here to die. But Turok ain't no bitch. He charges straight at him, and they get into hand-to-hand combat. Turok takes some hits, but he ends the grapple with his tomahawk. They have a Mexican standoff moment, and Cheechak shoots his shot, which whiffs pretty bad. Turok is not fazed by this and returns the weapon to sender, much like how Cheechak's shit-ass dad got before, but this time his head comes clean off. Yeah, not so smug now, you little bit. The Carno approaches Turok, but again, our boy is not fazed. They have a moment of understanding before the dino leaves to chase more British. And so, the remaining cliff people are saved.
Yay!
But they have to have a big funeral for their dead leader. We see our main three reciting the cliff people's code as they light the funeral pyre, cementing their place here in the land of dinosaurs. We pan up and the credits roll, and that's the end of the movie. My goodness, this made me want to work out more, just in case I get trapped in the land of dinosaurs. Overall, I really enjoyed this film. Some of the dino designs were questionable, but let's talk about them in the analysis. Welcome to the analysis. Now, I am going to try something a little bit different for this analysis. I feel like I've streamlined it a bit. And we are just going to go in the order that the animals were actually shown in the movie. So, starting with Phorusrhacos longissimus. As I said in the summary, Phorusrhacos longissimus were large flightless terror birds that lived in South America during the Miocene epoch, about 13 to 20 million years ago. Being dominant land predators at the time, they stood about 8 feet tall and probably weighed around 300 pounds, which is about as much as a male ostrich. They had 2 powerful legs, short, flightless wings, and a large head that ended with a hooked beak. Their name means very long rag bearer, on account of its large, wrinkled jaw, which includes the beak. Due to its large legs and its grassland environment, it makes sense that terrorbird would run down its prey. It had a fused skull, which indicates that it could do a lot of damage with a pecking motion. Combine this with its large bite force, and it's easy to see why it was an apex predator. Examination of its vertebrae have indicated that it would have likely been able to swivel its head quickly, like a modern bird. So it likely also had good hearing and eyesight. It's thought that it ate anything smaller than itself, like the Holmesina, tapirs, and equids. It's not known if they would have hunted in packs, but if they did, it would have likely been cooperative hunting and not coordinated hunting, like we see in modern mammals. Now, how do these two compare? Well, the basic design is there, but they differ in the hands, and I think personally that they look better without them. The feather versus fur design is weird, but I can kind of appreciate it. We are talking about evolved animals here. In life, they were apex predators, and in the movie, we do see this displayed when one attacks Turok's horse. But after that, the terrorbirds are regulated to mounts for the cliff people, which is cool. However, I would imagine that since terrorbird is living with dinosaurs, they would not be filling the same ecological niche that they were in real life, since they wouldn't be top dog in this environment anymore. Now, some popular conceptions. While terrorbirds are featured in many popular media, it's never really specified what species they are on screen. But there are actually 25 different species of terrorbird, varying in size and beak shape. Besides that, the basics are always shown: strong legs, big beak, flightless wings, and scarily fast. Alright, moving on, we have Ankylosaurus magniventris. Now, Anky was an armored dinosaur that lived at the end of the Cretaceous period, about 66 to 68 million years ago, making them among the last of the non-avian dinosaurs. They grew to about 20 to 26 feet long and weighed about 5 to 8 tons. They were quadrupedal, had wide bodies with fused skulls, and possessed a large club on the end of their tails. The fused bones they had were a source of further genus name, which means fused, and the specific name means great belly. Now, like other ornithischians, Ankylosaurus was herbivorous. Its wide muzzle was adapted for non-selective low-browse cropping. Ankylosaurus probably fed on abundant ferns and low-growing shrubs, and assuming it was endothermic, Ankylosaurus would have eaten about 60 kilograms or 130 pounds of ferns per day, similar to the amount of dry vegetation that a large elephant would consume. The requirements for nutrition could have been more effectively met if Ankylosaurus ate fruit, which its small, cusp-like teeth and the shape of its beak seem well adapted for. Based on the broadness of the rib cage, the digestion of unchewed food may have been facilitated by a hindgut fermentation, like that found in modern herbivorous lizards. Now, how do these two compare? Well, again, the basic design is there. Obviously, they are not very detailed, but I can appreciate the little accurate touches. The tail club is in a semicircle, which is correct. The nostrils point towards the side, and the pointed horns are coming out in the correct place around the skull. They have a beaked mouth, and the wide body is present. It is unknown how rare Ankylosaurus actually was in real life, as their skeletons are rarely found within the sediments that they are located in. This may indicate that they were ecologically rare or restricted to the uplands of the formation, where they would have been less likely to fossilize. Here we see them in a large herd, which I think would have been cool to witness, as Turok did. Now, some popular conceptions is that the club of Ankylosaurus has only been found in one specimen, so the true range of what they could have also looked like from individual to individual is unknown. Anky has been depicted with spikes coming out of its body a lot, instead of its actual armor that it possesses. And Anky was also featured in the Jurassic Park franchise, where they are depicted as attacking with their tails and running, abilities that have been criticized as unlikely by paleontologists. Next, we have Carnotaurus sastrae, and Carnotaurus was a genus of theropod dinosaur that lived in South America during the late Cretaceous period, around 72 to 69 million years ago. It is known from one skeleton, and it measured about 24 to 20 feet long, stood about 10 feet tall, and weighed about 1.5 to 2.3 tons. It had 2 thick horns above its eyes and a very deep skull sitting on a muscular neck. Carnotaurus was probably well adapted for running and was possibly one of the fastest large theropods. The name Carnotaurus means meat bowl, and sastrae honors Angel Sastrae, the owner of the farm it was found on. Now, the hunting and feeding habits of Carno are unknown, but some studies have suggested that the animal was able to hunt down very large prey, such as large sauropods, while other studies have found that it preyed mainly on relatively small animals. Its brain cavity suggests an acute sense of smell, while hearing and sight were less well developed. I like to imagine it used its long legs and well-musculared neck to chase down large prey and overpower them, but some studies have suggested that it used its horns and neck muscles for intra-species fighting instead. Now, how do these two compare? Well, the one shown doesn't have the correct vestigial arms, but rather has limited use arms, more like a T-Rex. The area where the neck meets the head is not as thick as it's traditionally shown, and it's much larger than it actually was. The real Carnotaurus probably fulfilled a similar ecological niche as the one shown, being that of a fierce predator. I think it's cool that the cliff people refer to it as the Great Horned One. They probably go out of their way to avoid it at all costs, as failure to do so means death. Had humanity interacted with this animal in real life, I would imagine they probably would have treated it the same. Now, some popular conceptions. Carno is one of the best understood theropods from the southern hemisphere, and the horns above its eyes are a unique feature that are unseen in all other carnivorous dinosaurs. And, if you didn't know this, because of its arms, it wasn't very good at high-fiving. Moving on, we have Plesiosaurus dolichoderus, and Plesiosaurus was a genus of extinct large marine reptile that lived during the early Jurassic, about 175 to 199 million years ago. Its nearly complete skeletons have been found in the Lias of England, and it is distinguishable by its small head, long and slender neck, broad turtle-like body, a short tail, and 2 pairs of large, elongated paddles. It grew to about 9.5 to 11.5 feet long. Its U-shaped jaw and sharp teeth would have likely operated as a fish trap. Because of this, Plesiosaurus would have fed upon clams, snails, belemnites, fish, and other prey as well. Its neck could have been used as a rudder when navigating during a chase while it propelled itself with its paddles. It has been proposed that the long neck of Plesiosaurus would have been a hindrance when trying to speed up, with any bend in the neck creating turbulences and drag. If that is the case, then Plesiosaurus would have had to keep its neck straight in order to achieve good acceleration, something that would make hunting difficult. For this reason, it may be possible that these animals would actually lie in wait for prey to come close instead of trying to pursue them. Now, how do these two compare? The one shown in the film is actually way larger than its real-life counterpart. The tail is of the traditional design, where the modern one looks like this. The eye placement is a bit weird to me, as it has a brow ridge where the real one did not. And the animated one seems to fulfill the same ecological niche as the real ones did, as both a predator and then prey for the larger hunters of the sea. Lastly, they were not able to lift their heads above water like we are shown here. It is a common misconception that Plesiosaurus is a dinosaur, and is often depicted as such. Plesiosaurus is the center of many legends about sea serpents and monsters, with the most famous one being the Loch Ness Monster. But it has all but been confirmed that plesiosaurs in general died out around 66 million years ago. Yeah, I know, real bummer. Next, we have Tylosaurus prorigor. And Tylosaurus is a genus of mosasaur that lived about 92 to 66 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous period. They had a streamlined body, an elongated tail ending with a downturn supporting a 2-lobed fin, and 2 pairs of flippers. The head was strongly conical, and the snout was proportionally longer than most mosasaurs, making it about 13 to 14% of its total length. Its fossils have been found around the North Atlantic Ocean, where they would have patrolled in life. They grew to between 39 and 52 feet long, and were thought to weigh around 9 and 20 tons. They exhibit an example of deep-sea gigantism, or the tendency of deep-sea creatures to grow rather large. And their genus name means knobbed lizard. Look, don't laugh. After their elongated rostrum, and their specific name means prow-bearing, in reference to prorigor's unique prow-like rostrum. As for its hunting habits, Tylosaurus was an apex predator during its time, and likely ate a wide variety of sea animals. Documented stomach contents include other mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, turtles, birds, bony fish, and sharks. Evidence from bite marks suggests that the animal also preyed on giant squids and ammonites. It likely specialized in ambush hunting, quickly reaching its max speed and slamming its jaws into its prey, with the full force of its body weight behind it. Microscopic analysis of scales of another species, T. nepaeolicus, detected high traces of the pigment eumelanin. This indicates a dark coloration, similar to the leatherback sea turtle in life. A dark-colored form would have provided several evolutionary advantages, such as better camouflage. Evidence is also found from fossil remains that suggests that Tylosaurus interacted with members of its own kind aggressively, as many of these fossils have healed wounds created by Tylosaurus teeth. Now, how do these two compare? This is, in my opinion, one of the more accurate depictions in this film. The overall body shape and details are great. The tail shape is generally correct, and the size is portrayed correctly. The only thing I would change is the shape of its head. It's leaning more towards a U shape rather than the extremely conical shape of the real Tylosaurus. The one shown in the movie seems to fulfill the same role as the real-life animal did, as an apex predator that would indeed consume a plesiosaur, only to then aggressively pursue further prey, like our MCs. Some popular conceptions include, in many depictions of Tylosaurus, it's actually missing its fluked tail. The reason I pointed that out in the summary is that because it's a trait of derived mosasaurs, or mosasaurs that are evolved for a fully aquatic lifestyle. And lastly, we have Pteranodon longiceps. Now, Pteranodon is a genus of pterosaur that included some of the largest known flying reptiles. They lived in North America during the late Cretaceous period. They had long, pelican-like toothless jaws and a large crest coming out of the back of their skulls. The adult males grew to between 18 and 25 feet in wingspan, with the females growing to about 12 feet in width. They supposedly weighed around 44 to 77 pounds and displayed sexual dimorphism, with the males having very large crests and narrow hips, and the females having smaller crests and wide pelvic canals. The name Pteranodon means toothless wing, and longiceps means long head. Now, it is known that Pteranodon ate fish, as fossilized fish bones have been found inside recovered specimens. It is also likely that they ate small invertebrates when the opportunity arose. It's thought that since they were able to take off from water, that they would dip their long bills and neck into the water for fish while swimming. It has been noted that their head, neck, and shoulders are built for diving, so it's thought that another method for hunting could have been them diving into the water, like modern-day birds. Now, how do these two compare? The ones shown in the film are also one of the more accurate. It has the crest, the size is about right, and the animators even put in its 3 fingers, with the 4th being an elongated finger that extends to the wingtip. The only thing that I will say is that if this one is a female, and maybe it should be because of the nest, its crest would not be so large. And on the surface, the animated and real-life pterosaurs filled the same ecological niche, hunting and reproducing. Except that in Turok, the Pteranodon lives in the cliffs, away from water. In life, Pteranodon longiceps lived in rookeries near the western interior seaway, and was an important part of the food chain there. And don't forget, its diet consisted mainly of fish, something that would be harder to catch living where they did in the movie. Some popular conceptions include, Pteranodon is an iconic pterosaur, often depicted in most dinosaur media, while simultaneously being mislabeled as a dinosaur. Speaking of mislabeling, Pteranodon is often called pterodactyl despite their many differences, like the beak shape, the presence of teeth, and the size difference. More fossil specimens of Pteranodon have been found than any other pterosaur, many of which are well preserved with nearly complete skulls and articulated skeletons. And that ends our analysis. I really appreciate you guys watching and all of your support. If you liked it, go ahead and drop a like, and subscribe if you do want to see more. Let me know what you thought of the video down in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day, and stomp you later.